Hey guys, Terry Hay here again from Shock Treatment. Today we're going to be talking about setting up the front of your motorcycle and get the ultimate performance out of it. Now we went in before about setting up the rear, how to set up the sag, what we're chasing out of that, getting the right force delivery through the motorcycle. With the front, I prefer to set them up a little differently. I really don't like measuring front wheel sag. The reason being is that there's a lot of inaccuracy with that. Now certainly there have been a lot of people come out and show you how to set up front wheel sag. I would really prefer to show you why you shouldn't, and you know, if you want to get a better bike than the next guy, you really need to be doing a little bit more than the next guy. And these days we're really chasing convenience a lot more than we should. Sometimes we just have to put an effort in, you know. Now if we take a modern telescopic fork, what we're going to find is that we have a massive seal area here, and those seals create drag, and that drag will hamper with an accurate measurement. Also, we're dealing with a telescopic fork. Now there's no bearings in here, they just have bushings, and these things are really affected by a side load. If we put any form of vertical force on a telescopic fork that's in an angle, we're actually going to hamper the movement of that fork, and we're going to get binding. Okay, very, very apparent. And there's another thing inside here, what they call a top-out spring, which will mess with our measurement as well. Now when a fork is fully extended like it is here, we have the top-out spring and the mainspring sitting together, and one is opposed in the other one. Now, our cartridge at full lockout, we'll hear that actually engages the spring there. Now in this particular fork, that's a very poor example. This is a very cheaply made Marzocchi fork, but it has a tiny little top-out spring in it, about 1 inch long. Now here we have a WP fork, and it's slightly longer. It's probably about 30 millimeters long, that top-out spring, and so they'll engage at different rates. Here is an Öhlins fork, and this Öhlins fork has a large top-out spring in it. Not the longest out there. The SP2 fork actually has a longer top-out spring, and something like a ZX12 has an extremely long top-out spring in it. So to give you an example, if we just bolt this in the vise, don't do this unless you've got soft jaws on your vise. People don't like their forks being marked up. Okay, if we just grab that and extend it, you can see that I'm getting 20-25 mil of extension out of that. Okay, and this is the two springs messing with each other. So if you think you're going to get accuracy out of this, think again. So if you're saying, okay, well, how do I set my bike up? How do I get the best out of it? Well, we ride it. We do it dynamically. So what I prefer to do is hop on the bike, have all my adjusters set basically in the middle, go on most of your forks. And in this particular one, we've got a preload adjuster on the top that'll control our spring pressure. We have a rebound adjuster there, the little screw in the middle. And in this one, we have a compression adjuster, which is just a knob at the front of the fork. Okay, the knob behind the fork is me. Okay, so basically, we're going to adjust our preload first and foremost, and we're going to do that for our braking effect. We want the bike to handle under brakes as nicely as possible. Obviously it'll dive a little, but we don't want it diving excessively. We need it to dive a bit so we can set up for the corner. So let's look at the sequence. Okay, so we're going to jump on and we're going to ride our bike, and we want to find a familiar piece of road and basically go out there and go into a corner and brake and just note the performance. Is it diving too much? Is it not diving enough? Does it not let me tip in? Now the preload will affect the height of your fork, and this is very, very critical. So we want to adjust our preload first and foremost. And so basically adjust your spring pressure until you've got it holding up nicely under brakes, and it still allows you to tip in. Okay, next thing, once we've got our braking performance right, we then want to go and have a look at our steering performance. Remember, the preload affects the height. Well, that height will also affect the steering. So if we get this right, what we'll find is everything runs into each other and everything flows quite nicely. So braking performance first, and then because that preload will affect the height of the bike, we then want to assess our steering characteristics. Is it hard to address the corner? Is it too easy? Does it feel light in the front or unstable? If it's hard to tip in, basically we can adjust that by raising the height of the fork and the triple clamps. As we slide the forks upward, the angle gets steeper and it becomes easier to steer the bike. If we find it's a bit light, a bit flighty in the front, what we can do is we can actually rake that fork out, and as we rake it out it becomes more and more stable. So what we're chasing here is the best blend of stability and agility in the fork. Okay, so once we've got that right, we are actually going to look at our compression damping. Now, one thing with the height of the fork, obviously we were talking about the angles of forks before. On a telescopic fork, the angle of the fork will absolutely affect the measurement as well. So anything that's raked out a little more than another one will have a different sag measurement. So compression damping. Now, we want to address compression before rebound. We want to leave rebound last of all. And the reason for that is rebound is the reaction. Okay, the initial movement is your compression movement, and the rebound is the reaction that then restores the fork back to its original height. But we want to address compression damping first and foremost. I see a lot of people running out and just attacking rebound before they've really gone through this process. You really don't want to do that. Okay, so compression, we want to make the fork as hard as comfort and grip will allow. Now, if we take a soft bike, that bike will pitch fore and aft. It'll dive under brakes and it will squat under acceleration. So we get a lot of movement. And as we make that harder and harder and harder, the bike actually begins to stabilise. We find we've got a much more controlled vehicle. So how hard do we go? We go as hard as we can until it starts to become uncomfortable. If it's become uncomfortable, you've gone too far. So back it off and get that nice stable feel. Okay, and then if we've got everything right, then go to the rebound damping last of all. And so we're now going to address our rebound damping and basically make sure we've got the correct level of control from the vehicle. Okay, the danger of making your rebound damping too slow is that you'll affect its ability to actually trace the ground. And so the most common mistake I see on motorcycles is people have got the rebound wound up way too slow. And so bear in mind that you hit a bump, the wheel has to absorb that bump and then get back on the ground as quickly as possible to give us maximum grip. And that's what we're chasing. So what we're looking for from the rebound is our best blend of grip and our best blend of control. But once again, we leave that till absolutely last because that's a reaction, not the initial action. Okay, just a little sidebar on rebound damping. I really want to recap on this. You know, it's so important that we get our compression damping sorted first. As I said before, compression is the initial action, rebound is the reaction. If our fork compresses a long way, it must rebound a long way. Energy is stored in those springs and the springs want to release the energy. And what will happen is on the return stroke, we're developing more momentum than what we should. We come up above the ride height line and it'll take a few pumps until that bike settles down again. Now, if our bike only compresses a small way, it'll naturally only rebound a small way and it settles down much, much easier. So it's far easier to get your bike sorted for control using the compression damping. And like I said, I would prefer to err on the faster side with rebound. I'd rather it a little bit quicker than too slow because it's responsible for your traction. Okay, so that's about it. Put your tape measure away, grab your helmet and gloves, go out and ride.